access the podcast of OA. Located deep within Sector 14845 and powered by the Emerald Light of Will, the podcast of OA is your guide to the Green Lantern universe. Hosted by Lantern Myron Rumsey, the podcast of OA begins now.
Hey, Green Lantern fans, welcome back to the podcast of OA, episode number 239. I'm your co-host, Myron Rumsey, and I'm joined by my friend on the other end, Mr. Phil Bova. Phil, you different surroundings tonight.
I cannot show you the background. We are in the process of moving to a new home. So the background's shaded out. I gotta represent right now. I can't feel like you see the disaster. I don't have my mic anymore. My hands look all messed up. I don't have my earplugs, but okay. But we're gonna get by.
We'll get through it. We'll get through it.
Get through it. I'm moving to OA if anybody needs to know.
All right. Well, hey, this episode, we're going to talk about Green Lantern issue number 7. We're a little behind, so we're going to be doing some catching up. This episode is Green Lantern number 7, and we'll do issue 5 of War Journal in the next episode. But this time around, we're going to get some answers about what happened on Korugar and what happened to Kilowog, possibly. And but before we get into all the good stuff, we've got some Green Lantern news and some Green Lantern on the panel. Green Lantern news wise, McFarlane Toys is really going to town with the Green Lantern stuff. You know, they recently came out with the Superpowers Hal Jordan and Sinestro in his classic garb. Coming up in April is a Kilowog Superpowers figure. And then there is another version of Sinestro in his Sinestro Corps War outfit, you know, the outfit he's wearing in modern stuff. But I haven't seen how you can buy that as a single figure. They had it as part of a bundle, which sold out rather quickly. So I don't know whether we're going to see that available in stores or if it's going to be available for a pre-order as a separate figure or not. But exciting stuff. And then they did a glow-in-the-dark Parallax figure, which was an Amazon exclusive, and that sold out like instantly. And then they are dropping. Now, you and I are recording this episode on February 8th, and I don't know if I'll get this episode out in time, but on February 10th, Amazon is going to be doing an Amazon exclusive Todd McFarlane 2-pack, and it looks like they only gave you teaser images, but it certainly looks like Kyle Rayner because of the power battery involved in the leg boot piece, and Kilowog in a McFarlane larger size figure.
It would make sense that it would be those two together anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the other figure has a larger body shape and has a hammer. And, you know, Kilowog equals hammer. So it looks like that's what the other figure is going to be. So that's really exciting. And then a rumor leaked out. Every year, Funko does a thing. I shouldn't say every year. I know they've done it last year, and I know they're doing it this year. But Funko does a thing with Target. They call it Target Con. And Target Con 24, there's a leak out on the internet showing the Funko Pops that are supposedly coming out. Not confirmed, but on that list is a Red Lantern Hal Jordan. So we'll see. I don't know when that's going to be. I don't know when Target Con is, but I'm going to be definitely. No, wait, it's February 18th. They did say that, February 18th.
Well, I'm buying a house, so I'm not going to be able to buy any of the stuff you just mentioned.
We're going to get all this Green Lantern merchandise is going to come out, and poor Phil's going to be like, I can't do it.
So, you know, there's a question about us. So there's all this content that's coming out. There's been a surplus of Green Lantern content that's been coming out. Not just talking about the books, you know, you're talking about the figures and stuff like that. And I bet you 10 to 1 that there's some kind of underlying message coming out from Gunn and Company over there at WB that's pushing this Green Lantern, because to me it feels like it's some kind of precursor getting the fan interest amped up for what's going to be coming.
I think it's because they've run out of versions of Batman to do.
Well, I mean, I was going to say that, but you know, my name's Phil Bova, and I don't like Batman.
I don't think there's really been anything else new in terms of news. I mean, there's been some interviews. There was an interview that just came out with Jeremy Adams and Ron Mars talking about upcoming issues of the Green Lantern book. But other than that, there really hasn't been, no casting news yet on the Green Lantern show or anything like that. In terms of Green Lantern on the panel, Guy Gardner was the lead character in a lead story for the new book that just came out, How to Lose a Guy Gardner in 10 Days.
Did you read that? I didn't read it.
I did read it. I haven't been in my shop yet to pick it up, but I read it. I bought a digital copy. And it's interesting. It's the lead-in story, and it's their the Valentine's Day issue of romantic type stories. And in this particular story, Vicky Vale wants to do a story on the hazards of dating a superhero. And she picks, of all people in the world, Guy Gardner to date. And Guy Gardner is Guy Gardner. And it's interesting as the story goes, there's the antics you would expect in a Guy Gardner romance story. And Vicky Vale's like really having a hard time getting through these dates with a guy. And like on the second date, he refuses to pay for dinner, and things like that happen. But at the end of the story, and I don't want to spoil it, but at the end of the story, you find out the guy was paying attention more than you think he was, and he does something for Vicky Vale, which they don't end on a romantic note. They end on a friendship note, but she realizes that there's more to him than meets the eye.
So I wonder why they chose Vicky Vale of all people, and then crossed over with Guy Gardner.
I'm assuming that the writer of the story, and I don't remember just now who wrote that particular story, but the writer wanted to do something with the news story. That was the idea, and Lois Lane obviously isn't going to be the candidate to have, so Vicky Vale was probably the next choice.
That's funny. That's quirky. That's cool.
Yeah, it was quirky, and there's a lot of I think there's a Nightwing story in there. There's just a bunch of those kind of stories. There's a story with Barry Allen and Iris. That was cute. But the Guy Gardner story I thought was a lot of fun because it starts off one way and then you kind of see something else at the end, which I thought was really good.
And we're going to be seeing him soon.
Yep. He'll be coming up very shortly here in the next couple of months. We're going to see more and more of Guy Gardner. We're going to see a lot more of different Green Lanterns. I mean, we know we've got Cal coming up in the next issue in a backup story, and we've got Jessica in a backup story. So yeah, I think we're starting to see more and more. And the one thing that Jeremy Adams said in that interview that just ran is a lot of these backup stories are not just fluff. This is showing you what's going on outside of Earth and outside of the main Green Lantern book, because all of these things are going to come back together. And we know that there's going to be a reckoning with the United Planets. There's going to have to be.
Yeah, I want to know more about this organization, man.
Yeah, because it reminds me of most bureaucratic organizations I can think of.
I mean, for sure. And they're hidden too, right? And that's the cryptic value of what they represent. They're like the behind the scenes man pulling the strings people.
It's like we
know there's some corruption.
We don't really know their agenda yet. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's we've seen already that the leader there, Theros, is a real piece of work, but we don't know what's the motive. Why are they really doing what they're doing? And we've got this mystery that just came up in the last issue about the emotional spectrum being in distress, and we're going to talk about that more in this issue. But there's definitely some things going on. What their agenda is and why they're choosing to do certain things is really a mystery. And I'm excited by it because I mean, I like to speculate. We like to do a lot of speculation on the show, and I don't have a good idea of what their motive is.
But that's the fun about this run, right?
Right.
The run before it, we didn't give a hoo-ha about what happened the next issue, nor did we even know what was going to happen the next, nor did we care.
Right.
But that's the fun thing about this one. It's intriguing.
Yeah, I'm enjoying this run, and I can't wait to talk about this issue. So why don't we take a quick pause, and when we come back, we'll jump right into Green Lantern number 7.
This is Giancarlo Volpe, producer of Green Lantern, the animated series, and you're listening to the podcast of OA.
All right, welcome back, Green Lantern fans. We are talking about Green Lantern number 7. This is, of course, written by Jeremy Adams. Zerbonico's not doing the pencils in this one. The artist is Amin K, and I know I'm going to mispronounce this name, and I apologize. but I believe the last name is Nahulapan.
Sounds about right. Nahulapan, maybe.
Yep,
Pan.
yep, one or the other. And so it's a fill-in artist, and this issue starts right out with starting to fill in a little bit of the gaps in what we know about what's been going on with the Green Lantern Corps since Dark Crisis and since the United Planets took over the role of the Guardians of the Universe and have quarantined Earth. And this starts right out with this flashback. It jumps back, and we don't get a real good sense of the time. We know it's sometime after the end of the previous run. We know it's after Dark Crisis is over. The one thing that stood out to me is a little odd was that at the end of the previous run, the John Stewart run, Simon Baz became almost like the new crypt keeper of sorts. He could speak to the dead and so on. And here we see him in his traditional Green Lantern uniform. We also see Aricia in the background, and she's supposedly dead. So I don't know whether this is a case of Jeremy Adams picking what he likes out of the previous run and using it, or if it's just blissful ignorance of what took place with Simon Baz, or did whatever happened with Simon Baz fade away and he went back to normal? Because we don't know really a sense of time. Maybe something happened in a story we've never read off panel, and Aricia is back from the dead essentially, and Simon Baz is back to normal. Whatever the reason, however it happened, that's where we are now. As this starts.
And that's Joe in the background, maybe on the left. Is that Joe in the background on the left over by Baz?
Well, let's see. I think we're looking at different pages.
Wait, I'm on the front page. Oh, that's
the
some
front
time
page?
ago.
Oh, yeah, no, I see Jessica and Kilowog. Oh, Joe and behind him. Yes, you're right.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, it was a lighter color, and it's in the corner of the page. But they're there, and the United Planet shows up, and so they get their introduction to Theros. And Theros talks about the Dark Crisis being the reason for the quarantine, which rings a little hollow to me, but whatever, that's their choice. And they're, of course, worried about what's going to happen. You kind of see Cal go, uh-oh. And they start telling people what their assignments are going to be. And at first, Guy Gardner's ready to, you can stick it, until he finds out that his mission is to go hunt down Lobo. And then he's like, I'm in, oh, okay, I'll do that. See you chumps later, So very Guy Gardnerish. It's a story I'd like to read. I'd like to see what happens with him going after Lobo.
That would be excellent. That would be really comical. Throw a Kilo in there, and that would make for a really, really, really good Three's a Company crowd, man.
I would love to read an Arkillo, Guy Gardner, Lobo team up book of these guys like on a weekend or something,
Yeah.
That would be.
Why not throw Kilowog, man? You know how much
Sure, why not? Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. Well, what I think is interesting is that they don't give Hal and Kilowog a permanent assignment, but they want those two in particular to accompany Theros on a mission to Korrigar, excuse me, to Korrigar to get Sinestro to sign a treaty with the United Planets. Now, in what person's mind did that sound like it was going to be a good idea, right?
Lord Theros.
So did Theros pick them because he thought they were the best for the job, or did he pick them because he knew that Hal wouldn't be able to just do the job, that it wasn't going to get personal?
Well, I mean, that's the thing, right? Theros might not know the mind of Hal all that well. He should,
right?
But he might not.
It just seems so odd. I'm reading, I'm going like, okay, of all the guys you could pick, of all the Green Lanterns you've got to pick from, you pick those two?
Why did he even pick anybody to begin with? If he's the all-powerful Lord Theros, why did you need anybody? There was an agenda. There's an agenda why he pulled.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I guess that's my thing. Is it's not a random pick, that's for sure. And whether it's because he thought that they would be the right choices for the job, or did he think I'm going to set Hal up for a fall?
Right.
I don't know. Because of course, they get to I don't know why I've got Thanagar in the brain, but they get to Korrigar, and of course it immediately all goes to crap, right?
Right.
And they're met there by Tomar 2. Sinestro's playing his games. Hal can't contain himself. He gets kind of chewed out a little bit by Theros, sent back to the ship. And Sinestro's loving it. You can just see it in that split where there's this great split panel with Sinestro on one side and Hal on the other. And Hal's got the gritted teeth and Sinestro's got that little smirk. Hal's being played. Whether he's being played by Theros and Sinestro together or just Sinestro, I don't know. My suspicion is that there's more going on between Sinestro and Theros than we know.
Yeah, I would imagine there would be. You could tell by the way he introduced, because he acted like he knew him.
Yeah.
Theros, welcome to my home.
Right. Like it doesn't feel like it's their first interaction.
Right.
And Hal has to storm off, leaving Kilowog to be the sole person to protect Theros. And then what happens as soon as Hal gets out of the room? There's an attack. I mean, coincidence? Happy coincidence? Or plan? You tell me. To me, it seems very calculated.
Well, and they want Theros dead because he even says, find Premier. What Yellow Lantern is that? Warthog? I don't think.
Don't know. I none of those three characters do I recognize. I don't recognize any of them at all. But Hal sees them going on the way up to do their attack. Kilowog protects Theros. The attack happens. Hal, of course, is trying to get back and help out. All heck breaks loose. It seems very, very calculated. But would Sinestro really allow his people to do this and attack Theros? I mean, he's got such a tight control. Or is there something going on Korrigar that he's losing his influence? I don't know.
Well, and also let it be known too that, I mean, to sign a treaty, you said it yourself at the very beginning. Why would you think you're going to show up on Korrigar and expect Sinestro to sign some treaty? He's always been a man that played by his own rules, and he's not going to get himself involved in the bureaucracy of what he stands for. So I would imagine my thought process is, and if I know Sinestro like I've read him, he invited him there, wanted to hear him out, but it was all planned just to see what was going to play. And he used that to an advantage. I mean, it didn't help that he brought Hal and Kilowog around. I mean, that's just a personal prod, right? I mean, there's backstory there between all three of those.
Right.
So you had to either know, like you said, either know something was going to happen. As far as Hal taking the fall, though, I don't know what exactly he would take the fall for. I mean, he gets out of it with Theros.
Mm-hmm. If something goes wrong on this mission, and you can take Hal off the table,
right? That's true.
If I'm Theros and I'm in charge of the United Planets, there are two people in particular I'm most worried about: Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan, because of all the Corps, those are the two that are most likely to lead the Green Lanterns against the United Planets. So if you can get them off the table, then you have a much better chance of doing whatever your plan is, whatever your agenda is. Sure. So by putting Hal in the situation where he gets reprimanded and then the mission goes south, you can then punish him.
Yeah.
You could throw him out. You could remove his ring, what have you.
That's sense why he gets banished to Earth and the Earth gets quarantined.
Yes.
Yeah, I got it. Makes
so
sense.
To me, that's like, okay, I'm gonna make Hal go back to Earth. I'm gonna quarantine the Earth. That gets that threat out of the way so we can do whatever our agenda is. That's what I'm telling myself in the back of my head.
Well, then that would mean that there's something going on between Theros and Sinestro then.
Mm-hmm.
But why would they also want Theros dead, though? That's the key, right?
I don't think they really did.
So you think it was just a ploy to think they were going to try to kill him?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. I like it. I still think Kilowog's alive, so there you go.
I do too. I mean, we see Kilowog trying to hold his own against these three Yellow Lanterns. You notice how none of the other Yellow Lanterns or Sinestro do a thing.
That's true.
Nobody's trying to stop him except for Kilowog. And then we see something going on with the emotional spectrum, what we heard. There's this kind of a power surge and there's an explosion. And then we find out that Hal woke up 2 days later on Oa and is told that Kilowog died, which again screams Kilowog isn't dead.
Right.
And again, in my head, I'm playing the conspiracy theory out that what better way to drive Hal away than to think that he was responsible for the death of Kilowog.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it does take you, it takes your mental state out of it too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then this issue flashes forward to now, and it's basically Hal and Razor talking, and we discover that Odom has been destroyed. Now, there's a whole thing going on with the Blue Lanterns. I mean, the Blue Lantern Corps has been in such a state with Odom being destroyed and things happening, and so it's hard to tell how this falls into place. But clearly, there's stuff going on with the Blue Lanterns, and that's got to be tied to the emotional spectrum.
Yeah, I would imagine. I mean, so I wonder if other ones are going to pop up, like Zamaron.
Right.
You know, that would be interesting if that was to come into play later.
Well, it was interesting in that interview that Jeremy Adams did. He talked about Carol was going to become a part of this story. So whether it's just her decision with how she feels about Hal, or does this whole emotional spectrum stuff pull her back into action as Star Sapphire? I don't
Well,
know.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, that was an excellent issue. These
Yeah.
things have really been they've really been packed with good content, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, Adams is really lining this up, you know, and I like what he's doing with the direction. I mean, it's always cool that he's got Razor involved now, you know.
Yeah. But and that's something I think fans have really wanted, is to see something happen with the Green Lantern animated series continuity to fold in some way, even if it didn't mean that the animated series took place canonically, which is fine with me.
Right.
But to pull those elements in, that's great.
Mhm.
This issue also has the final of the backup of Korg and Wayward Son, the whole thing with Sin Sun. And it kind of wraps up the way you kind of thought it would, in a way that it would be Nagaf versus Sin Sun, and Sin Sun wins out. He finds evidence that Nagaf has been living high in the hog, but playing this role like he's not any much better off than his underlings, but really he's been living off of the profits that they've been providing him for gosh only knows how long. And he ends up beating Nagaf, and he becomes the leader of the gang, and that kicks into the beginning of Sinister Sons, which is supposed to be out this month.
Small correction, not leader of a gang. He says, looks like we've got our own core.
You're right. You're correct. Absolutely. And I know we haven't been talking a whole lot about it, that particular backup. I mean, it is what it is. It's not bad. It doesn't resonate with me. I think some people like it, and people who like, the whole idea of the sons of some of our characters doing some things together, the whole thing with Super Sons and so on. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not my cup of tea.
I would like it if he interacted with Sinestro more.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing him meet Sinestro, to meet his
Yeah.
father.
Yeah.
That would be a good scene. I'd be looking forward to that. But
That's kind of what I meant by more. It's like, okay, it'd be nice to see his dad.
are you planning on picking up Sinister Sons?
I am doubtful of that particular title.
Me too.
I don't think so. I don't think the backup didn't, like I said, I wasn't into it. I read the first one and then I was like, man, I got enough to read, and this is just something else that I don't know if I really care to.
Yeah, the backup didn't sell me on it. I know for me, part of it is the art. I don't like this art style, so that's a part of it.
It's cute. I like the characters are cute. I mean, don't get me wrong, Sinsun's cool or whatever his name is, and I think it's really cute character. It makes for an evil counterpart to the good characters that are usually out there in books. So
Right.
especially doing this like kids kind of stuff.
I'm kind of interested because I kind of want to see how he reacts with Larzad,
Yeah.
but I don't know if I'm interested enough to pick up an issue. I'll probably flip through it and make my decision after I flip through it. That's where I'm going with it. What did you think of the art? What did you think of Amonkhe?
I liked it.
His artwork.
Some of the faces kind of threw me off a little bit. There was a side view of Hal I didn't really care for. But I think overall his art was perfectly fine. I mean, I like how he did Kilowog. I mean, man, he banged out Kilowog awesome. You
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah.
even that Warthog, whatever his name is, I didn't even say what his name was.
Yeah, they didn't give any of them names, which, whatever. I mean, we don't need to know what their names were.
Yeah. But no, I think he did a bang out job. As a matter of fact, that split image of Hal and Sinestro, I was thinking about cropping that, and that would make for a cool poster.
Yeah, yeah.
Just their faces, it's just their faces side by side. I think that'd make for a cool looking poster.
I agree.
Yeah.
But no, I thought it was a good looking issue. I thought it was a fun issue. I didn't. If Kilowog was really going to be dead, I would expect a little bit more drama in it. It was almost like oops, things blew up. And there's no body apparently that we see. So again, it's there's no body. He's, is he alive or not? I don't know.
What did he fall into, the yellow power battery?
What's that?
He fell into the yellow power battery, apparently, right?
There was an explosion. Yeah, there was a power surge.
Right. So, I mean, for all intents and purposes, he could be imbued with the yellow power now.
Correct. Who knows? There's either he's been taken off the playing field, but not dead, but being kept in captivity so that they could drive Hal to where they need to drive him, or he's disappeared and gone somewhere because of the explosion, or perhaps he's gone inside, or perhaps he's connected in some way with what's going on amongst all the different colors of the emotional spectrum, or he's really dead. It could be any of the above. I mean, I did notice that neither one of the McFarlane figures were coming with a coffin accessory, so. But it was a good issue. Again, we've said this before. We're in a good period where we've got two really good, strong, ongoing series, and then we've got the miniseries going on with Alan Scott. So there's a lot of Green Lantern content, and it's all for the most part great quality.
You think leading up with this 7th issue that we're up to with Lantern, you think Sinestro's the one pulling all the cord, is the one in the background?
I don't know. Part of me wants to say it is, but then look where he ends up, because he ends up on Earth without a ring, and he's desperate to get off the Earth and being chased by the United Planets. So,
right, and he wants to go back to Korrigar so bad. So, this
right.
issue gives us the before and what happened with Kilowog and Theros. But we're at the other end of that. We also got Sinestro tearing off Earth to try to get back to Korrigar for whatever reason he wants to get back.
Which kind of shoots some holes in my idea that Theros and Sinestro were in cahoots together, because why would he end up on Earth?
I think Sinestro is the one behind everything. Because if that was a play that they wanted to think that they were trying to kill Theros, and that leads into whatever happened to Kilowog, which, I think he's alive and being held. And then Hal getting taken off the playing field. While Sinestro did end up on Earth, we don't know how he ended up there. You know what I mean?
Right.
So there was a reason why he ended up on Earth, and that hasn't been provided yet.
Mm-hmm.
Be that it may, there's a reason he took off of Earth so fast to get back to Korrigar, because something was going on. And he was in a hurry, and he wasn't letting anything get in his way either.
And we do know by the previews for issue 8 that the United Planets do take a trip to Earth again.
I wonder if it was a drop. I mean, see, that's just it. Like, so I guess Hal leaves with Theros in this issue, or he flies him somewhere.
Right, back to the ship.
Back to the ship or whatever. So so that would take Hal and Theros away. So Sinestro would essentially still be on Korrigar. So there's a reason. So how would Sinestro end up on Earth? That's what I want to know.
Sure. Yeah. There's still some unanswered questions.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have some listener feedback. My power ring is a blinking, and you just disappeared.
Oh, there I am. Oh, look. Oh, my shirt disappeared. I got my Green Lantern, the Simon Baz Jessica Cruz shirt on. I'm representing Baz tonight.
There you go. There you go.
Get it done.
So we've got some listener feedback that we got to get caught up on that. So we'll take a quick break and we'll come back and we'll get to your listener feedback.
This is Salak, Green Lantern of Sector 1418, and you are receiving the podcast of Oa.
The podcast of Oa.
Our first message is from the Emerald Enthusiast, commenting on our last episode. Transmitting in 3, 2, 1.
Excellent job, Ring Slingers. I'm on board for the Green Lantern, Pillsbury Doughboy one-shot.
Hey, Donnie, good to hear from you again, Emerald Enthusiast. Yeah, we talked about a Green Lantern Pillsbury Doughboy one-shot. I think that'd be prime. I think that'd be an excellent issue. I think we need to have Kilowog in there, though.
That was a fun time talking with Spencer Nodell and Tim Sheridan, and I thought it was a good conversation. So I'm glad people are responding to it and liking it.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. And they're great guys. I mean, and they both show a lot of passion. And I really like what Tim's doing with Alan Scott. I'm looking forward to the next issues.
And if you guys out there are not subscribed to the Emerald Enthusiast YouTube channel, he does a lot of content on mainly action figures, and he doesn't do just Green Lantern figures. He does some other action figures of different types, some other Marvel stuff and some wrestling stuff. And he's also the co-host of the Emerald Echo podcast. So if you haven't checked him out already, please do. Donnie's a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
So Power Ring, why don't you go ahead and give us our next message?
The next message is from Cloned Avenger. Transmitting in 3, 2, 1.
Great interview, guys. Still hoping you get Jeff Johns on here one day. Another Jeremy Adams interview would be great.
Hey, Clone Avenger. Glad you like the interviews. I will say it would be really cool to get Jeff Johns on. I would really. He signed one of my books from a buddy, another listener, and he sent it to me. And he's one of the creators that I've always wanted to have on here. And I think Myron would be a huge fan if he was on here.
We almost had him on the show at one point, and scheduling was difficult because he was doing a lot of different things. And we were going to circle back with his production assistant at Mad Ghost. And that was right around the time Mad Ghost kind of got taken off the table, and they were working on Ghost Machine. So I need to circle back. I see that Jeff Johns has been doing some podcasts and stuff. In fact, he was on the World at War podcast that we were on a while ago. He was a guest on that as well. So I'm going to be reaching back out to Jeff and see if we can get him on the show. I mean, obviously we'd be talking about Mad Ghost because that's kind of not Mad Ghost, Ghost Machine, because that's the books that he's working on. And so there would be a lot of that, but certainly we're going to talk Green Lantern if we get him on. And then regarding Jeremy Adams, when we talked to Jeremy Adams before things really got going with this series, he did say, come back to me and we'll do a checkup. And we're getting close to the, when we hit issue 10, it'll actually be 12 issues because of Night Terrors. Yeah. So it'll be a year. So I have every intention of reaching back out to Jeremy because he does want to come back on the show. And we'll talk some more Green Lantern with him. That is for sure. But I'm glad you liked the interview we had with Spencer and Tim Sheridan. It was a lot of fun. I like doing interviews. I get nervous around interviews, but I like doing them as well. I always get nervous. I'm afraid I'm going to say something that upsets somebody, because sometimes my mouth goes faster than my brain.
Well, and everybody's humble, you know what I mean? Tim was very humble, it was a complete honor to have him on. And then, he felt honored by being on. And it's like,
yeah, it was funny. He, he's not active really on social media a whole lot, but when I sent the folks at DC Comics who helped coordinate all this, he responded to the two of us and thanked us for coming on the show and really had a good time. So that always makes me feel good when a creator feels that they were comfortable enough and reaches out and says something after the fact. And that whole episode was an interesting thing because we were contacted by the Nodell family and they were interested in Spencer coming back on the show, and they had been talking to Tim Sheridan. And so it kind of organically came out of that. And they were looking for an opportunity to talk and said, hey, we'd like to do this with you guys. And which was very humbling and very, very much a great honor to do that. So
it was an opportunity, and not many people get the opportunity to do generational things like that. And,
right.
So no, that was awesome.
All right, well, Power Ring, why don't you give us our next message?
We have a voice recording from Ian, who has a number of questions he'd like to ask. Playing the message in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, it's Ian again. I was just calling because I had a few more questions. I was wondering, I'm sure you've covered it before, but as a new listener, I was wondering what you guys thought about the 2-volume Earth 1 series of Green Lantern books. I'm not a big fan of the Earth 1 line as a whole, but I actually thought that the Green Lantern books by Bechko and Hardman were really excellent. A really good story, a really good reimagining, and had great art. Moving on to a different question, I was wondering what you guys thought about the Guy Gardner Year 1 by Chuck Dixon from the 90s. Is that a story you think deserves more prominence? Or do you think that Guy has moved from that version of himself? Or does it still function as a good background? The Alan Scott JSA miniseries going on right now is not a one-year storyline, but it does sort of feel like a Year 1 type story. And I was wondering if you also thought that Hal Jordan could use a Year 1 treatment, a miniseries about his origin that kind of maybe settled those continuity issues. Jeremy Adams says that the Everything Happened mandate actually doesn't seem to be in effect anymore, that there is some kind of continuity that editorial is telling writers to adhere to, but they have not communicated that to readers, certainly. Lastly, are you excited about the backups coming up by Ron Mars and Sam Humphries and others introducing or reintroducing Green Lanterns like Kyle and Jessica? And who do you think might write Lanterns like Guy and Simon in the backups? And Jeremy Adams says those backups will be incorporated into the main stories. That's very exciting. Do you think Aricia might be one of them? And what did you think of Amon K. Nguelpan's art on issue number 7? I thought he was a really great fill-in for Germanica. I'm a big fan of Amon K. from his work on The Flash with Jeremy Adams. So seeing him team up again was really great. Thanks for all you do. Have a great day.
Hey, Ian, thanks for reaching out and thanks for sending us a voicemail. I love getting the voicemails because it gives us a chance to have a different voice on the show. So the first part of your message was asking what we thought about Earth 1. And I know I loved Earth 1, Volume 1 and 2. I was disappointed that DC opted not to go with Volume 3 because I thought, the first one got nominated for an Eisner and the second one did well. They both sold very well. But DC just decided to jump away from the entire Earth 1 deal. And it would have been nice if they'd at least finished up because they had a story. They had it all pitched and everything. And we're ready to do a Volume 3. And I would have liked to have seen it. And I think, they've been using images from that series, that two-part series, to talk about the Lanterns show. So people are thinking that's going to be what they're going to use as a template. I think it's just they like the artwork. But I liked it as a modern telling of it for the most part. There were a couple little things I didn't like, but for the most part, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a very modern take of what could happen in a more realistic modern setting. Phil, what did you think about the Earth 1 books?
No, I loved them all. I thought their art was cool, and Hartman could get it done. I mean,
yeah,
I always thought it would be a good template for a lantern, even a movie for that matter. I thought it would have been good. But
it was very grounded.
Yeah, it really was, and it felt realistic. Not over fantasized.
Yeah. So the next part of Ian's message, he's asking us about Guy Gardner Year 1, which was a 4-part little mini event inside of the Guy Gardner title, right around 1993, I think it was. And it's Chuck Dixon and Joe Staton. And it really, it was an interesting story because Guy is captured by some aliens. And I don't remember exactly why they want to clone him, but they want to clone him. And they're hooking a machine up and extracting some of his memories to put into the clone. And so we're reliving different parts of Guy's history through that mechanism. And it was a really good story in terms of it gave Guy a lot of depth because Guy Gardner, when he first showed up back in Green Lantern number 59, he was really just kind of a generic character. The original story was that Guy was going to be the first person to get a ring, and the Guardians saw that he was going to die after a couple of weeks of use, and the ring would have gone to hell anyway. So the ring one goes to hell, which I really didn't like that whole bit to begin with, but Guy didn't have a whole lot of character. And the next time he shows up is when he gets hit by a bus and can't be Hal's backup. Not that he ever was, so that John Stewart could become a Green Lantern. And then the next times he shows up, the power battery explodes and he goes to the Phantom Zone, and then he comes out with this completely different personality. So this 4-part story really tries to give you some background as to maybe why Guy is the way he is. He's got an abusive father. And this is certainly different from what we see during the Jeff Johns era. They kind of undid some of this. And in this, Guy's brother dies. His father's a bully. He beats Guy as a child, and Guy gets on the straight and narrow eventually. It was a good story. I don't know as if, like I said, I don't think it really sticks. Do I think it needs more prominence? I wouldn't mind seeing something different to kind of redo this. But I also wonder, in the whole Dawn of the DC stuff, if they're interested in going back and doing some of these year ones. I don't know. What did you think, Phil? Did you read this at all when it came out?
I did not. I did not at all.
I'm surprised it's not collected.
Yeah, I remember seeing it, and I remember because I remember how Guy Gardner was.
I mean, you can see right on the cover, his father's hitting him with the belt.
Yeah.
Wow.
Dark times back in the 90s.
Yeah, he actually encounters his younger self. Yeah, you're right. It was a dark time.
Yeah, 90s were different generation things decade things are a norm when it comes to comic books. I mean, they're always a reflection of things that happened in that encapsulated 10-year frame. I mean, the 70s were notorious for it. There was different times of comic books then. 80s were, really, really different. And then you got the hyper sexualized 90s when it came to just overboard on everything.
I mean, you think about it, this was what, 30 years ago?
Yeah.
So I think it's hard to make it something as a major part of his background, because it's not collected anywhere, that as far as I know. So is it something that would still function as a good background for him today? It could. I don't think we see a lot of this kind of stuff. They've rewritten it already.
I don't know if a lot of readers would. I mean, there might be some readers that would resonate with the living in an abusive relationship. I mean, but again, does that make up Guy Gardner as a character? I mean, if you're going to stick with a thread of an origin story, you at least keep your main templates in place, right? So if you're going to have a component like that, it's like the same thing they did with Jessica Cruz. It was always contingent upon her anxiety issues from the get, and then all of a sudden they veered away from that, and it's not about that anymore. Right. And that's fine. I mean, if you're going to change the ultimate character by doing that, that's fine. It's the same sense with Guy Gardner. If he lived in an abusive relationship like that, is that a main component that creates him as a character? I mean, I guess it depends on the writer, and if they choose to introduce that cog later on down the line with him. I don't think it would add or take away from him, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't think they really relied on it a whole lot going forward. I think they kind of use it as a way for people to understand maybe why Guy acts the way he does, rather than it just being the Phantom Zone stuff.
Sure.
But there was a seed of that in his character in the first place, and a lot of it came from the abusiveness, of being a battered child kind of thing.
Sure. And that would make it a different person,
Sure.
I get it.
Sure. So the next part of Ian's questions, he's talking a little bit about the Alan Scott series, and it feels like a year one story as well in some ways, because we're getting stuff about Alan from before he gets his ring as well as early in his career. And he wondered if Hal could use a year one treatment. And I'm not sure. I mean, we've had, there was Emerald Dawn, and then during the John's era, we got Secret Origin. I'm not sure we need a year one.
No. I would argue now.
It's such well-traveled territory. I mean, you also had the Justice League Darwin Cook the New Frontier book, which is almost a year one in a way. So I don't know. I mean, and he talks about the everything happened mandate actually doesn't seem to be in effect anymore, and there is some kind of continuity, but it hasn't been revealed to us yet. I think they're playing it close to the vest in that. I think they're still trying to hide behind that everything happened. I don't want to say hide behind. They're still kind of functioning with this. You kind of already know these characters. We're not going to relive all that stuff again. But we'll see. We'll see. And then lastly, he's asking about the backups for Ron Mars and Sam Humphries. Ron Mars is going to be doing a Kyle Rayner backup in this next issue. And I don't know if they're 1 or 2 issue backups, but then Sam Humphries is going to be doing Jessica. So are you excited about that, Phil? Either one of those?
Well, so Humphreys did Jessica before, so that'll be good. And for that matter, so did Mars with Rayner. I mean, they're going back to the characters they've done before, so I think it'll be cool.
I don't. I'm not excited. Oh,
Well, you don't like either of the characters that much, so
they're not. Neither one of those are really my favorite characters, and neither one of those creators are creators I'm particularly fond of.
yeah. So why would you be excited? I mean,
Right, right.
it's not like I'm sitting there jumping through hoops saying I already know it's just going to be a short-lived thing, right? I did see there was a backup issue, or not a backup issue, a variant cover with Jessica on the cover.
Yep.
She's in some kind of bathing suit or something like that.
There's a swimsuit cover, and it's got all the lanterns on it. She's on it.
Yeah.
Guys on it. They're all on it.
Yeah,
Which was fun,
yeah.
But
no, I'm looking forward. The Ron Mars one, I'm probably looking forward to a little bit more.
I think it's good marketing.
I mean, yeah, if you're gonna do it,
I mean, Ron Mars is good marketing with Kyle. I don't know as if Sam Humphries is good marketing with Jessica Cruz.
Do many people know where she originated? He's not the first person to write her, but
Right.
at the same time, he wrote the Green Lanterns book with Baz, didn't he? I don't know if he wrote, yeah.
He wrote the Green Lanterns book up to a point, and then it became Dan Jurgens.
Yeah, that's right. So, I don't know. He did write a lot of her, so maybe
neither one of them are like A-listers, so it's not like it's a big thing. But
I'd like to have Ron Myers on. That'd be cool.
Yeah. On here?
On here.
Yeah, not gonna happen. Once he finds out I was a member of Heat, are you kidding?
Yeah. Maybe Sam Humphries will come on.
Who do we think we could write other characters like Guy or Simon in backups?
Oh God, Simon. Who cares?
I think if we're going to have Sam Humphries come back and write Jessica Cruz, he might as well be the one to write Baz if they do Baz. Guy Gardner, I'm not sure who I would get to write Guy Gardner. I liked what Chuck Dixon did with him. I liked, this story was back when he had the Sinestro ring, Sinestro's original ring. And I can't remember who did the book when he was the Voldarian power thing. But Guy isn't that character anymore either, really. So I'm not sure who I would want to write Guy. If you could get Peter Tomasi to do it, that'd be cool.
Yeah,
or
that would be a good choice.
Maybe Van Jensen.
That will never happen.
Yeah, I don't know. And then he wondered if Aricia might be one of them. And I think DC, after the whole thing with Aricia and the backlash over that story that Steve Englehart did, don't think we'll see a whole lot of Aricia. She's been kind of relegated to the background except for during the Green Lantern Corps run. And I don't think she's going to be used a whole lot just because I still see people bringing it up today. The whole, she was 13 and Hal and her in a romance and, the artificial aging and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. Would I like to see Aricia? I think she's a great character. I'd love to see it. I would love to see more about the aliens. I know it's not a popular opinion, but I still am of the belief that Green Lantern was at its best when you had Hal and a bunch of aliens, because the aliens were in the forefront more, and you got to learn about all these characters. And right now there's so many human lanterns that when you're going to focus on anybody, you focus on them.
Because the aliens they've been backup characters for how many years now?
Right.
And the main focus has always been on the Earth Lanterns that's going on how long now?
It's been a while.
It's been a long time.
What I liked about the Green Lantern Corps run was that because you only had 1 or 2 Earth Lanterns in that book, it got to focus more on these characters and you got to see new characters. Mm-hmm. And that's what made the Corps so cool. To me, it was the science fiction part of it and seeing all of these really cool aliens and wanting to know their stories. And that's where I loved Tales of the Green Lantern Corps back when it used to be in the backup of the ongoing series. When it became Green Lantern Corps Quarterly, that was cool. Then when the Green Lantern Corps books have been on their own and had their own series, I've loved that stuff. And in all honesty, and like I said, I know it's not a popular opinion. I'd much rather read about them than the bulk of the Human Lanterns.
Even
But,
Simon Bass?
Simon Baz could go away. I'd be fine. If I had my druthers, I'm going to get hate mail now, right? It'd be Hal and John, and Guy and Kyle could be in the Green Lantern Corps book, and Hal and John with each have their own solo books, and the rest of them could go away.
Fair. I get it.
And I would take Joe, and to me, the worst thing they did with Joe Mullane was to bring her into regular DC continuity. I think it would have been better if Far Sector had been an Elseworlds or a multiverse book, and she'd have been on another Earth, and you could have done she could have done her own thing and had a series of books. In fact, the writer thought there was going to be more. You could have done a series of graphic novels and done it, and she could have been her own continuity and been fine.
And now she's a backup character, if you've noticed.
Right.
Now she's thrown in as an image in this latest issue, for that matter.
Exactly. She's not, doesn't have any prominence. And I mean, she's going to be in the Kyle Rayner backup story. That the preview pages showed that, but not in any real prominent role. Whereas if she was at least off on her own, she'd be special. N.K. Jemisin wanted to do more with the character. She could have done a series of Far Sector type books.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I know it's not the popular opinion, but.
And it is what it is.
Right. It is what it is. It is what it is. And then the last thing that Ian was asking about was what we thought of Amon K's artwork in this issue.
Yeah,
and I didn't realize he did the artwork in the Flash run that Jeremy Adams was on. So it's kind of neat to see them team up together. But this was my first exposure to the artwork that Amon K does. And I liked it. I thought it was very serviceable. There were some things, like you said, there were some things I didn't like as much as others. But for the most part, I thought it was great. I think Zermanico set the bar really, really high. But I would read this as a monthly. I would look at this as monthly artwork and not have a problem with it.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah, it was good stuff. So Ian, thanks so much for your voicemail. And we've got one more piece of listener feedback. So Power Ring, why don't you go ahead and give it to us?
The last message is from Everett, who is following up on comments about digital comics from your interview with Tim Sheridan and Spencer Nodell. Transmitting in 3, 2, 1.
You guys killed with this episode. I really like the talk about digital comics. The big two need to stop trying to get full price on digital comics. Comics are basically $5, especially Marvel. I will pay $5 for a paper copy but never $5 for a digital comic. Comic book prices are keeping children from ever getting into this art form. So the digital prices will have to go down considerably to ever make a dent for the big two. Great show, guys.
Hey, Everett. Thanks, man. A lot of people are commenting on that last episode, and me and Myron couldn't be thrilled enough to have been given the opportunity to do it. I mean, it was fun. Felt like it's funny because we recorded on a Saturday morning, and it actually felt like we were all getting together for Saturday morning cartoons and just talking about stuff. So
that's true. It was.
It was a lot of fun, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Do it again.
Poor Tim Sheridan was on the West Coast.
Yeah.
We were recording at 10 o'clock a.m. on your time. It was 10 o'clock your time.
Yeah.
So for me, it was 11 o'clock. It was like no big deal for me, but for him, it was a whole other story. And he had just flown to California from Texas. So his body clock was all messed up.
Poor guy.
In fact, he forgot, and his partner woke him up. So right. he had some bedhead going on, but he covered it well. He covered it well.
That's right. His husband came in and told him, "Don't you have a podcast?" And came right in. Yeah, it was fun, man. Great guys, great conversations. Good content.
And there was some good conversation, not just about the Alan Scott stuff, but as Everett points out, about the digital books and the comics medium and stuff. And there was something I wanted to say during that episode that I didn't, and I'll share it here. But I think the future of comics could be a little different if we did, instead of monthly floppies, if we just did digital floppies monthly, and they were cheaper, And then these were collected and you bought trades at your comic shop. And then you wouldn't have the floppy piece to deal with. The cost would be a little more cost effective, and you'd be buying a complete story. Because right now, manga is doing so well, and it's because you're buying, a collected edition for the most part.
Right.
I don't think you're buying floppies.
I don't think they sell singular issues at all.
Right. And then the production cost would be a little lower. You could make more books because you would need to have more trades to put out in the stores.
So you're just talking about relegating the stores to selling the trades and just doing digital floppies.
Yeah.
For weekly issues or whatever.
Yeah. Or maybe you do them instead of a digital comic that's a monthly comic, maybe it's smaller and cheaper. And then you're collecting X number of issues together in a printed version. I don't know.
I mean, at the end of the day, the painting's on the wall. You're going to see it. There's going to be a change in what's coming forward with what they're going to do with comic books. I don't think you're going to get away from. I think comic book shops are going to stay the same that they always are. I think they're going to just remain that small shop where you get your collectibles at, And then of course they'll have their comic books. I don't know what that's going to look like in the future, but I think some of them might get affected by this if they were to decide to do that. I don't know.
Yeah, you'd have a window of time before you started getting your trades. But you would, what would you have, right? So you'd have to do something there. But I could also see the trade paperback version, but I could also see a smaller digest black and white version.
Yeah, that's true too.
Do you remember back in the day? Gosh, I had a number of them. I used to read the two main characters I read growing up were Spider-Man and Green Lantern. And they used to be these paperbacks. They weren't trade paperbacks. They were paperback book sized. And they were black and white reprints. Some of them were color. And they were like paperback sized.
I don't remember those.
Yeah, I don't think I've got them anymore. But they were a thing back in the day.
And side note, did you ever find your Condor?
No, I have not found it yet. I know I've got it somewhere. Phil and I were talking about Mask, and I was telling a story about getting Condor back in the day. And I know I still got it somewhere because I didn't throw it out because it was kind of this, I don't know, it was a rough period of my life, so I kept it. But there's a story there. But anyway.
Different story, different time. And this is the Mobile Armored Strike Command podcast, so
Well, Everett, thanks so much for your feedback, and thank all of our listeners who have sent us feedback. Power Ring, why don't you tell everybody how they can be a part of the show?
You can become a part of the show by leaving a message up to 1 minute long on our voicemail line. Call us at 406-POD-OA. That's 406-763-6362. You can also email us at podcast@blogofoa.com. We'd love to hear from you.
Hey, fellow Owens, welcome back. So the next time we get on this cast, I will be on OA. That's what I'm calling it. I am moving out of St. Louis. I'm bidding St. Louis adieu. So it's been great 6 years living here, but it's time for me to go. I got to move someplace a little bit safer for my family. So
that commute from OA every day is going to be a real wicked travel.
That's okay, man. I'll just take whatever black hole I can find myself going through, or whatever time warp, whatever they call it, whatever portal. My ring will do me good. So that's the next time we record, we get on here. That's where I'll be. So
the last episode in your old house, and the next episode will be your first episode in the new house.
It is, and I don't know what background I'm going to have. But there is a plus side to this moving forward. When I do get my office space set up and get everything going, I finally get to get my collectible back out. So
nice.
All my figures are going to be out.
Nice.
Yeah, I told my dad I was going to come over and pick it all up. And I got all my Superman stuff. I mean, I got all my stuff's going up at some point.
Nice. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see it.
It's been in storage way too long.
I was going to tell you, yesterday I had a couple beers with Bill Giancoli, the former co-host.
No kidding.
Yeah, he and I got together. We hadn't had a chance to hang out in quite a while. So we went out, had a couple drinks, and he, of course, wishes you well and the family well and wished all of our listeners well and said he kind of missed doing it a little bit, but his life has gotten so busy and hectic that he just hasn't had time to do any of this kind of fun stuff.
Oh, that's a shame. Well, I mean, it happens, man. I mean, I'm living in chaos right now, so
Yep. Well,
no,
he after he left the show, he got divorced and he got remarried. And so he's got stepkids as well as his own kids, and the dynamic of, the split homes with his kids and juggling things back and forth, and started a new job. And so he's just been, living the life. And
well, good for him.
yeah,
Good for him. He's doing what he wants to do, so that's the main
that's right.
thing.
He's still writing books. He's working on some new comic projects that he's gonna have out at some point. But so no, he's doing really well. It was good to see him. It was good to hang out.
Cool. Pretty soon we're going to be able to cheers to a beer.
That's right. We need to get together at some point.
Yeah, that's going to happen. It's going to happen. And not only when it happens, we need to record when it happens. We can be sitting there next to each other doing it. That'd be kind of fun.
That would be fun. That would be fun. All right. Well, we'll be back. I don't know exactly when we're going to do the next episode. A lot of it's going to depend on how your move goes and when you're ready to tackle it.
Well, it ain't going to be next week. It'll be the following week. Well, what's coming out? So we already got War Journal we got to talk about.
Yeah, we got War Journal we got to talk about. And between the time and we record this episode and release it, and the next one, we'll have another issue of Green Lantern and probably another issue of War Journal.
Oh boy. Well, we'll just have to pack them all in.
And then we still got Alan Scott to fit in there, and we still have to finish our conversation. Start our conversation about Godzilla versus Kong versus the Justice League.
Oh my God, we got a lot to talk about.
I think you know what I think we'll do. We'll wait until that one is done, and we'll talk about the entire story.
That's fair. I haven't got caught up on I think they're on issue 4.
Yeah, I think the 4th issue is out. I've got the 4th issue to read in my pile here.
Yeah, I still have to read that one too, because I know Neil Before Zod came out, second one of that.
I think I might wait until it's done and to read it and just reread the whole thing.
It's probably which one? The Neil Before Zod one or
the Kong Godzilla book?
I think it's going to go better when it's all together.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm thinking that way too.
Yeah.
All right, friends. Well, thanks for joining us and being a part of our little universe here. We appreciate you listening and/or watching, however you're taking in this content. We'll be back in a couple of weeks once Phil gets some stuff unpacked. But until next time, treat each other well, keep that power ring charged, and make every day your brightest day. Take care, everybody. Thanks so much for watching this Green Lantern video from the blog of Oa. If you liked what you saw, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can find even more great Green Lantern videos, reviews, podcasts, and more at our main website, www.blogofoa.com. So until next time, keep your power ring charged and make every day your brightest day.